With I.R.O.C and Pro Stocks. Well, it all looks like it's going to get underway with no problems. Well, almost no problems. When a car crossed up could end up in being a destructive situation. How about racing up in Maine and getting crisscrossed? And thundering racing action in Florida for World Series entertainment. And literally hitting at a ton. Where a car that started out as a full car ends up being two-piece instead of one. How about a simple spin, a tag to the wall, a slide for life, one might say? Well, it's all part of racing. The I.R.O.C event, where there was more smoke and standing on the throttle was the only way out of this one. But even at the end, it didn't seem to be that bad. Then racing for the rumble and the thunder, and hitting. And how about who put that tire on the racetrack? Leapfrog over it. Tag and you're it. How about a wild ride for thundery competition from Thunder Road in Vermont? And a re-look at what it was like end over end and thundering to the end. But that's just one of many of the wild, wild rides. Back to Southern racing at Florida, where hitting T-bone style ends up looking like this. And at Lee, USA and Lee, New Hampshire, a bounce off the wall will end a good day. And from the Big T at the Thompson Speedway in Thompson, Connecticut, losing the front end. Or more short track racing from Riverside Park in Agawam, Mass. But it all looks so simple. The high banks of Monadnock with a pirouette high fly. A look back at it again, almost over, but not quite there. But there was still always a lot of close wheel-to-wheel action, fender-to-fender action, and a long, safe slide down the back straightaway, while once again the driver would walk away and somehow be okay. How about two cars tangling? Down through the middle they'd go. High wide, a tap to the wall, Southern racing at its best. Cautions? Well, fighting on the racetrack and fighting in the competition. It all seemed so harmless, but suddenly it wasn't that. And how about a hole that looked like it opened up that suddenly closed as you made it through with half your race car? Wheel-to-wheel racing, contending up front, way out wide and out of the ballpark. And more great competition. When being off the pace means losing most of the pace and most of your race car. Bumper to bumper, wheel to wheel, around and through. Some will make it and some won't. And hitting at a ton and losing more than a ton of what once was your race car. And that delayed reaction when you think it's almost over, but not quite. All this is what short track full-bodied racing is all about. It seems so simple and sometimes seems so harmless, where some will get away and others won't. From the Martinsville Speedway, even a start can look so easy and so simple. Then all of a sudden, everything comes to a screeching halt. Just ask Wayne Patterson as he was in the middle of all of that.
Yeah, it really was, Bill. Martinsville's always, it's either good or bad, feast or famine. We had some guys up front, a little bit of inexperience, and we went out in the corner, and the 02 car just never turned. He kept straight. Looked like he ran up into the car that was in front of me and just spun him around sideways. We got on the binders, and the guy behind me hit me, spun me around. Then somebody else run into the side of the car and bent the drag link and the whole side of the car up. So we just knocked out of it for the day.
Well, Wayne, there's always next week. Pocono International Raceway has always been a challenge to race car drivers. You can see why in the modified division as things got out of hand initially right from the start. Short track racing, bumper to bumper, crashing and smashing. High-speed competition, where hitting at a ton is all part of the program. And how about when the outside lane doesn't start and you've got no place to go but up, up, and over? That was the story from the Stafford Motor Speedway in Stafford Springs, Connecticut. How about a look from the inside, where it's supposed to look so much easier and calmer? Call this calm or call it easy? It's almost scary. The sudden stop always seems to get you. But that wasn't the only sudden stop. How about a sudden stop of a different type? Like a fiery sudden stop, as things get lighted up underneath. And then losing a tire and hitting at a ton. Closer than most people park, up, up, and over. At the Stafford Motor Speedway in Stafford Springs, Connecticut. Wheel to wheel at New Smyrna as Bob Park gets up and on 2 and back down with less than 2 on the race car. Down the back straightaway when a wild spin looks so easy, and another convertible has been made for the competition. But the object of the game is not to necessarily do this. It's to stay in the competition and end up running up front. More fiery excitement from underneath. Trouble now. Thundery competition from Thompson Speedway in Thompson, Connecticut. Wheel-to-wheel competition, racing at its best, 3 and 4 wide, where wheels touch and cars lock horns. More racing action up on 2. Holding it down from Jennerstown in Jennerstown, Pennsylvania. A pirouette spin from Riverside Park in Agawam, Mass. And how about this? It looks so harmless. Then, wow, a blast of fire off turn 4. But again, the driver would walk away and somehow be okay. But that wasn't the only wild situation or wildfire. How about hitting at a ton off turn 4 and coming to that sudden stop? Right side was there, now it's gone. And bidding for the lead. And bidding for a tree in the parking lot. Up, up, and over. They say the sudden stop's what always gets you. How about contending for the number 1 spot and end up over and down without the number 1 spot? Crossed up and sliding down low in turn 1. And wheel-to-wheel competition at a ton. For World Series action, as Old Faithful just gushes away. Pig pile off turn 2. The end result is one totally wrecked race car. Let's look at it again. Hitting at a ton. Over, down and out, wrecked and out of the competition. But on another day, another problem. Mike Stefanik, before he was the champion, got crossed up and literally ripped the roof off. How about sparks flying, like Jerry Marquis at Riverside Park, and the Winged Warriors from Star Speedway ripped the wing right off this one. But that's just the beginning. How about running for the title and the victory, and ripping the right side off at the Stafford Motor Speedway? Leapfrog, I'm on you, you got away. And how about more racing action from Pocono? Well, the strategy of stopping for one doesn't quite work for another. There's all types of spins, all types of thrills, and all types of spills, ending up with a fire upside down in the cockpit. That doesn't seem the way to end an event. And close competition, when suddenly a minor mix-up becomes total disaster. But somehow through all of this, all the drivers would get away, and all would survive. But their equipment would definitely not make it through the test. In one of the wildest fires ever, in the history of Riverside Park Speedway from Agawam, Massachusetts. But the end results would show that man can still survive. And weeks later, end over end, in a quest for a checker. How about out in the loose stuff and tagging the wall hard? A roadblock here. And more excitement from Pocono with 8 cars locking horns. A bid for the lead at the Turkey Derby, where this turkey got more than his share. How about close competition from Martinsville, where Jeff Fuller hits at a ton, a stuck throttle, brings him back right in the line of fire. A look back at it, and how do you think Jeff Fuller feels about all of this and hitting at a ton?
Down across the track a little bit, hooked the right front, and it went up into the wall. The motor came back, the throttle stuck. Got into the second wall, the throttle was still stuck wide open. I finally got the motor killed and, brought it to a stop. But it was such a shame, so early in the race to want to last something like that to happen.